guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is about vampires. Now, I've had a vampire obsession since I was 8 years old, but I know that there are other vampire fans out there, and not just, the average Joe. I know that there are famous people who feel the same as me, or at least a smidge of what I feel. So today I'm going to be talking about actors and actresses who have played vampires more than once. There are a lot of vampire movies, specifically B-rated vampire movies, but there are a lot. However, they're not like very popular vampire movies. Not a lot of these movies get to theaters. Sinners, being an awesome example of one that made it. But these actors have played vampires more than once, and not just the same vampire, because there are actors like Taika Waititi who reprised his role from What We Do in the Shadows at least once or twice. Then there's the actors who play Dracula. They've played Dracula multiple times, but it's the same character. These are actors who've played vampires as different characters. So specifically different vampires. Let's get into it. The first one I mentioned in my previous, in the video where I was talking about actors who should play vampires, is Pedro Pascal. Pedro has played vampires on 2 separate occasions. He appeared in one episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I believe it is season 4, episode 1. He's not a big character in that episode, but he does get turned into a vampire, and I'm pretty sure killed in the same episode, but he was a vampire. Later on, he played Max, the vampire, in Blood-Sucking Bastards, which is a great movie, and I saw that before I realized who Pedro was, and then I was like, wait a second, and then I rewatched it and went, it's Pedro Pascal! I was like, heck yeah, play those vampires, dude. You're pretty cool. Number 2 is Kyle Schmid, or Schmid, or sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He has played 2 vampires as well. He was Henry on the TV show Blood Ties, which is a great TV show based off a series of books. I've read every single book in that series and watched the show. The show was good until the final episode, so don't... Final episode is not good. Pretend it didn't happen. Show's fantastic. But I love vampire detective shows, so Blood Ties, has a special place in my heart, specifically because it came on around the same time as Moonlight did, and they have the same haircut, which I just find very entertaining. But he played another vampire on the remake of Being Human for the US, and he played another vampire named Henry, which I just find kind of funny that he played 2 different characters, years apart, that were vampires, that were named Henry. And Being Human and Blood Ties had very similar vampire looks. A lot of movies have different eyes, different fang shapes, like different things that make their vampire look the way they do. And Being Human and Blood Ties both had very dark eyes. I think the fangs were slightly different, but they look very similar. His hair was shorter in Being Human, but I think it's kind of funny. Most people can play, vampire characters, but the fact he played vampire characters with the same name, I find it interesting. The third actor is Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage has played 2 separate vampires. He was in Vampire's Kiss, I believe, in 1989. Technically, I guess he wasn't a vampire. I haven't seen this movie in quite a long time, but he believes he's becoming a vampire and slowly goes insane. So that's awesome. But technically, he's a vampire. He didn't play a vampire again until Renfield in 2023 when he played Dracula, which was a great choice for Dracula. He did a very good job. I was very enthralled, and I was waiting to see what happened next. Renfield is not my favorite rendition of the Dracula story, but it is pretty good. And Nicholas as Dracula, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Number 4 is Christopher Heyerdahl. He played the demon that tortured Dean and Hallett in Supernatural. Finally found out what his name is. He has played 3 vampires. He played a vampire on the TV show Van Helsing. He played a vampire on the show True Blood. And most famously of his 3 vampire roles, he was Marcus in the Twilight series. So his vampires are quite different in how they react to things. Because those are 3 completely different vampire medias. But he did play a vampire in all three, and I think he did a good job. Number 5 is Rutger Hauer. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He's played vampires on 3 separate occasions. He played a vampire in the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, which came out before the TV show, if you didn't know. He played a vampire in the 2004 Salem's Lot, and he played Dracula in Dracula 3 Legacy, which I believe is Dracula 2000, Dracula 2, and then Dracula 3. I think that's this series of movies. I have seen all 3 of them. Dracula 2000 is the only one that's memorable out of the 3, even though none of them are like high-end, the best movie I've ever seen. But he played Dracula, and Dracula's a cool guy. Number 6 is Ingrid Pitt. She's the only actress on this list. She has played a vampire 3 separate times. She played a vampire in The Vampire Lovers in 1970. She played a vampire in Countess Dracula in 1971, and I believe in the same year she played a vampire in The House That Dripped Blood. Now, I believe in the first one she played Carmilla, or Miracala, is how they like to call her. Switch around, no one will know. And then I believe she played Dracula, like a female Dracula? Maybe it's the same character, I'm not sure. And then in The House That Dripped Blood, it's a completely different character. This movie had 3 separate stories going on at the same time. Basically, this actor buys a cloak that actually, like, turns him into a vampire, and, or makes him feel like a vampire, and she puts it on, and she's a real vampire, and she's come to attack him. I've actually seen this movie, specifically for this part of the movie, so it was pretty iconic. Next up is William Dafoe. He has played vampires, technically, 4 times, and if you want to count it, 5 times. He played Nosferatu in Shadow of the Vampire. He actually, that movie is like the making of Nosferatu, but the actor is actually a vampire. I have seen it too, even though I don't like Nosferatu. He did play the role. Then he was a vampire in the movie Daybreakers, and a vampire, very small role, in the Cirque du Freak Vampire's Assistant. Iconic movie. Should have got more movies, or at least a TV show, because that book series is interesting. Just saying. Now, this is technically 4 because the 4th movie he was in was Nosferatu, the one that just came out. He didn't play a vampire in that. I kind of just put it on there because, technically he's in it. And the technically 5 is he had a very small role in the movie The Hunger, which came out in 1983, I think. So technically he's been in 5 vampire movies. He might have been more. He's actually played a vampire 3 times. But we can count it. Why not? He's William Dafoe. We can do what we want. Then there is John Cardine. He has played a vampire 4 times. He played Dracula in House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula in 1944 and 1945. He was actually the first actor to don the cape after Bela Lugosi. He played an unnamed vampire in Billy the Kid vs. Dracula, and he was a vampire in Vampire Hookers. It's as great as it sounds. I've seen that movie. It's not good. It's not a good movie. It came out in the 70s. So we all know what vampire movies in the 70s were. Speaking of Bela Lugosi is the next on our list. He has played a vampire 4 times. He played Dracula in the original 1931 Dracula and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He then played a vampire, not Dracula, in Mark of the Vampire and Return of the Vampire. He also supposedly, before Dracula came out in 1931, played Dracula in the Broadway production. Rumor is that he was buried in his Dracula suit. If that's true, badass. If not, totally understandable. But he's an awesome Dracula. Now the final man on this list has played a vampire 6 times, and they are 6 different vampires. I do believe this man loves vampires as much as I do, because who chooses to play a vampire 6 times? Unless you like vampires. I'm gonna say his name wrong. His name is Udo Kier. Sorry, I'm so sorry. He's played a vampire 6 times. He first played a vampire in 1985 in Die Einschläger. I am so sorry, that's not in English. He was a vampire in that. He was also in Shadow of the Vampire, Blade, Modern Vampires, Dracula, 3000, and Blood Rain. He is an icon among icons. I didn't recognize this guy's name, and then I saw his face and went, oh yeah, I know that guy. You know, sometimes it's like with a song or a person, you like recognize them, but you don't know the name. Same thing with this guy. I knew him, I just didn't know what his actual name was. But he's played vampire 6 times. An honorable mention, though he was not put on this list, is Christopher Lee, because, well, he may have played another vampire, but he played Dracula 10 times in, I believe, 7 Hammer film movies, and then like 3 others, and I think he played Dracula in a different role, and then it was like other vampires. Well, it had to be Dracula. He played Dracula 10 times, that's all I gotta say, which is a lot. He first played Dracula in 1958. I'm not sure exactly when his last role as Dracula was, but 10 times is a lot, because that's 10 separate movies. My favorite Dracula movie of Christopher Lee's is Dracula 1972. Piece of media. I love that movie. Though his original appearance in 1958 is pretty iconic as well, and the many ways he has been killed over his 10 films is hilarious. I think my favorite is when he got stabbed with a wagon wheel, or like a cross fell from a roof and impaled him, or he drowned in a lake of ice. It was a frozen lake and he just fell in. I just like to kill him in the weirdest ways where you're like, what? I mean, if you're there 10 times, you can't kill Dracula the same way every single time. It would get boring. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there are any actors that I did not mention, that I did not know about, that have played vampires multiple times, comment down below. Maybe I'll do a part 2 if I have enough. If not, you know, I find it interesting that, you know, yes, vampires are cool, in my opinion. And I'm not the only one with a vampire obsession. I know that. But I find it interesting that famous people have this obsession too, like people don't notice it. I mean, you have to like vampires if you played a vampire 6 times. You know what I mean? Like, yes, with Christopher Lee, he probably was in a contract. I mean, 7 of those films were Hammer films, so he might have been in a contract. That's why. But, like, if you play 6 separate vampires many years apart, made by different companies, you like vampires, and that's just how it is. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back again next week with another one. Alright, guys, I will see you later.